What if I told you that the ancient art of telepathic energy healing functions exactly like sending a WhatsApp message?
I mean, it sounds completely absurd at first.
Right. But today, we are basically tearing down the wall between abstract spirituality and observable mechanics.
So needed.
Because usually when you look at a medical diagnosis, there is this strict expectation of precision. Like you break your arm, the x-ray shows a jagged white line, and the doctor just points at the screen and says, there is the problem.
Yeah, it's subjective.
Exactly.
It's completely binary. Like it's broken or it's not, inflamed or clear. And human beings, we just inherently crave that kind of empirical comfort.
We really do.
We want to trust things we can categorize visually, things we can measure with, actual external instruments. We want to map a symptom directly to a physical coordinate on our bodies.
But the moment you step out of that allopathic framework and you step into the realms of, say, somatic trauma or energy healing, that x-ray machine just shatters.
Oh, completely. The landscape gets incredibly murky.
Right. And for the rational, scientifically minded person listening to this right now, esoteric energy work has always been viewed as highly subjective.
Almost like you just have to blindly trust the practitioner when they tell you that you're healed.
Which is the absolute definition of diagnostic muddy waters.
Yeah.
I mean, most people assume that the minute you start talking about chakras or bioenergy, you are just totally abandoning observable mechanics.
You're trading data for faith.
Yes. And that tension between data and faith is exactly why today's deep dive is just so uniquely compelling.
We are wading right into those muddy waters.
But we're bringing a surprisingly precise empirical map with us. Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to thoroughly examine the actual biological mechanics of energy healing.
And we have a really incredible source for this.
We do. Our guide to this material is Osman, who is this incredibly unique practitioner. You might know him as the creator behind the channel, The Blind Muslim Yogi.
Yeah, and we should definitely give some crucial context on Osman before we really dismantle his methods.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
So he is a master-level bioenergy healer, and he specializes specifically in critical care, recovery, and severe terminal ailments.
Which is heavy stuff.
Very. And he has been practicing advanced healing, yoga, and meditation for 50 years. 50 years.
That's a lifetime.
Literally. He reportedly attained his first state of samadhi, which is this profound meditative absorption, by the time he was just 19. But here's the really fascinating layer to all his work. He has been permanently blind since May 2023.
Right. And that's so important to keep in mind for everything we're about to discuss.
Exactly, because he describes these highly visual internal phenomena in his videos, and he can only describe them because he had normal eyesight prior to 2023.
So he's drawing on decades of normal visual experience.
Yes, he built this encyclopedic internal map of visual energy before he lost his physical vision.
Okay, let's unpack this, because Osman doesn't just teach energy healing as some vague feel-good philosophy. He approaches it as a rigorous, observable science.
He really emphasizes that term, scientific.
Yeah, he utilizes quantum principles and biological entanglement. And in his peak stages, he was practicing up to 18 hours a day.
18 hours. It's just mind-boggling.
But what really stands out in his protocol is his absolute laser focus on the symptoms of a successful session.
Right, the verifiability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He is constantly asking, how do you actually know if an energetic center is unblocked? Like, where is the verifiable data?
And that completely shifts the power dynamic of traditional healing.
How so?
Well, instead of the guru holding all the esoteric authority, Osman and the client are basically looking at a shared dashboard of symptoms.
I see.
To verify the work in real time. If the symptom doesn't manifest, the healing hasn't happened. Period.
It's a highly scientific standard applied to a spiritual practice.
It really is.
Now, before we explore the exact mechanics of how he achieves this, and we are going to get into some incredible modern analogies involving telepathy and digital data transfer soon, we have to establish a foundational caveat.
This is so crucial.
It's what made me take his material so seriously right from the jump. Osman explicitly states that his therapies are natural-based complementary therapies.
Complementary, not alternative.
Yes, they are not a replacement for medical treatment.
That distinction is vital. I mean, in the wellness industry, you see so many practitioners setting themselves up in direct opposition to modern medicine.
Don't trust the doctors, trust my crystals kind of thing.
Exactly. But Osman does the exact opposite. He emphasizes that if you have a medical condition, you absolutely must consult a licensed medical professional.
He actually says his high success rate, which is around 90% by the way, is completely normal when natural energy and immunity are optimized.
Right. It's meant to operate alongside allopathic medicine.
When he said that, I actually had to pause reading the source material. It is just so rare to hear a spiritual healer praise modern medicine.
He essentially says, do not ditch your oncologist. Let me optimize your underlying biological energy system so that your body has the baseline strength to process those medical interventions.
It frames the energy healing as a biological catalyst, not magical thinking.
Right, and he notes that severe ailments like cancer are often the result of modern lifestyles that just totally deplete our natural energies.
So the spirituality and yoga protocols replenish that lost energy.
Exactly. Reversing the ailments just takes practice, time, and proficiency.
Okay, so to understand these verifiable symptoms of healing, we first have to understand the map he is using.
And his map is vastly more complex than the standard yoga studio chart.
I mean, when most people think of chakras, they picture the standard 7 centers aligned up the spine, right?
Yeah, the rainbow colors up the back.
Yeah.
But Osman operates on a much older, massive network of 114 specific energy centers.
114. Just mapping that mentally is exhausting.
It is incredibly intricate. And the geographical layout challenges our most basic assumptions about human biology.
Walk us through it.
Okay, so according to his framework, 2 of these centers are located entirely outside the physical body.
Wait, outside.
Yes, and 2 are situated slightly above the head, including the 7th chakra, which hovers just above the physical crown.
Okay.
And then the remaining 112 are distributed within the physical tissues and nervous system intersections.
Wait, I want to push back on that for a second. The idea of energy centers existing outside the boundaries of our physical skin. I mean, how does that work mechanistically?
It sounds like sci-fi at first.
If it's not attached to tissue, what is it attached to?
Well, if we look at this through the lens of modern biophysics, it isn't actually as strange as it sounds.
Really?
Yeah, think about the human heart. It generates an electromagnetic field that extends several feet outside the physical body.
Oh, right. You can measure that.
Exactly, with a magnetometer. Our nervous system isn't a completely closed loop. It interacts with the environment.
Okay, so Osman is essentially suggesting that the boundary of you doesn't terminate at your epidermis.
Precisely. The bioelectric field generated by the body has specific structural nodes, even in the space immediately surrounding the tissue.
So it's kind of like the magnetic field around a bar magnet.
That's a great way to look at it.
The magnet itself stops at the metal, but the field has a distinct organized architecture hovering in the air around it.
Exactly.
But what's really interesting is how he manages this massive network, because with 114 different nodes, you'd think a single session would take weeks.
Right, but he relies on a very distinct hierarchy. He doesn't treat all the centers equally.
Thank goodness for that.
To manage this system efficiently, his methodology focuses almost entirely on the 6th major energy center.
The third eye.
Yes. In his bioenergetic model, this 6th center acts as a master switch. Because of its dominant position, it governs the 111 energy centers that are physically and energetically below it.
Including the other 5 major chakras located further down the torso.
Right. But here's where his map gets hyper-specific. He points out that the third eye itself isn't just sitting there flat on the skin of your forehead.
Right. He makes a crucial distinction between the esoteric energy center and its actual biological receptor.
Yes. He locates the main physical receptor in that distinct little hollow of the forehead.
Just above where the bridge of the nose and the nostrils end.
That slight anatomical indentation on the lower forehead, yeah. It's an area rich with complex nerve endings connected to the trigeminal nerve.
So he separates the energetic frequency from the physical hardware that receives it.
Exactly.
It makes me think of a smart home system.
Walk us through the architecture of that.
Okay, think about how a smart home operates, right?
Yeah.
You have a central hub, like the main router hidden away in a closet.
Okay.
That invisible Wi-Fi network is the 6th chakra, the third eye. It coordinates all the downstream devices, the smart bulbs, the thermostat, the security cameras.
And those are the lower energy centers.
Exactly, the 111 lower nodes.
Yep.
But to actually interact with that invisible network, you need a physical touchscreen panel mounted on the wall.
Yep.
That hollow spot on the forehead is the panel. You touch the panel to input a command, but the panel itself isn't the Wi-Fi.
It's just the interface.
Yes. The panel is just the physical, biological interface for the invisible systemic network.
That is such a brilliant way to conceptualize it. The touchscreen panel allows the technician to input a new harmonizing code.
And then that cascades down the nervous system to all the connected physiological devices.
Right. And in Osman's practice, he is the technician.
Okay, so how does he input the code?
He transmits this harmonizing energy from the center of his own palms. He can do this by physically touching that hollow receptor on the client's forehead.
Or by hovering his hands, right?
Yeah, hovering them slightly away from the body to interact with that external field we mentioned earlier.
And this brings us to the moment in the source material that genuinely made my jaw drop.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
He presents the mechanics of this transmission so matter-of-factly. He states that he doesn't even need to be in the same room. He utilizes his master-level capabilities to transmit this energy remotely, telepathically.
Yes, utilizing quantum and entanglement principles. And this is where Osman provides a truly brilliant, demystifying translation of an ancient concept.
The WhatsApp analogy.
Yes. To explain quantum entanglement and telepathic healing to a modern audience, he compares sending bioenergy to sending a WhatsApp message.
When I read that, I actually burst out laughing. Not because it's silly, but because it is so incredibly mundane.
It really grounds the whole concept.
For millennia, we've treated telepathy as this mystical, supernatural phenomenon reserved for, like, wizards and gods.
Yeah.
And he just compares it to a texting app.
But that mundane quality is exactly why it works conceptually. Think about the mechanics of his explanation. He uses his own highly developed sixth center as a biological antenna to communicate with the broader quantum field, what he might call the spirit world.
Right?
And he states that the energy he transmits reaches the client instantly, in a split second.
Just like hitting send on a digital text. Let's really linger on this, because it challenges a fundamental bias most of us carry. For a long time, their rational, scientific mind has completely dismissed remote healing.
Because it sounded physically impossible.
Exactly. The argument was always, you cannot have invisible forces traveling across vast distances to instantly affect physical matter without a wire.
It was considered magical thinking.
Right.
But then, in the late 19th and 20th centuries, we discovered and harnessed radio waves. We invented Wi-Fi. We built cellular data networks.
Exactly. Right now, as you're listening to this deep dive, your phone or your computer is pulling completely invisible waves of encoded data out of the thin air.
And translating them into the audio frequencies of our voices.
Yes. If I send you a high-resolution photo on WhatsApp, a complex packet of binary data instantly travels from the silicon in my device, beams up to a satellite or a cell tower, and beams down to your device on the other side of the world.
In a fraction of a second.
And it materializes on your screen. We accept that as total boring normalcy. We don't call WhatsApp magic, we call it data transfer.
What Osman is proposing through his quantum framework is that human consciousness and biological energy systems have possessed a similar innate transmission capability long before we built the silicon hardware to mimic it.
By framing telepathic healing as a WhatsApp message, he completely removes it from the realm of esoteric fantasy.
He places it firmly in the realm of tangible biophysics.
As a biological Wi-Fi network.
Exactly, utilizing quantum entanglement where distance is entirely irrelevant to the connection.
It just makes it so approachable.
Yeah.
It suggests that telepathy is just a frequency bandwidth that our current mechanical instruments aren't quite calibrated to measure yet.
But a master practitioner with 50 years of training can access it.
Right. So the technician sends the energy, the WhatsApp data packet, into the master switch on the forehead. The energy then cascades down to the 111 lower centers.
That's the theory.
But here's the critical analytical question. If the energy is sent like a digital message, how does the client get the read receipt?
Ah, the verification.
Exactly. How do you empirically verify that the message actually arrived and executed the code?
This leads us to the core of Osman's scientific verification method, the diagnostic dashboard.
The dashboard.
Because he is dealing with invisible energy, he relies on a highly specific, observable physiological response. And it all comes down to visual symptoms.
Specifically, the organic manifestation of colors.
Right.
Okay, so when the harmonizing energy successfully fills a blocked center in the body, the client experiences a sudden, undeniable flash of color in their mind's eye.
Which is fascinating.
It is, and I want to pause here because the skeptic in me immediately flared up when I read this.
I'm sure a lot of people feel that way.
Right. I thought, okay, if a client goes to a famous energy healer and pays a relatively high treatment fee for a session.
And they already know chakras are associated with color.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isn't this just a massive psychological priming effect? Doesn't the brain just hallucinate the colors because it wants to please the practitioner?
The placebo effect and the power of suggestion are incredibly strong, yes. But Osman is acutely aware of that psychological trap.
He is.
He explicitly notes in his protocol that he does not hypnotize his clients. Furthermore, he doesn't guide them.
That's the key part.
This isn't a guided meditation where he says in a soothing voice, now focus on your chest and imagine a bright, healing green light.
He doesn't prompt them at all. He transmits the energy in complete silence. And the clients will suddenly report a flash of color, often acting surprised by it.
Yeah, they don't even necessarily understand why they're seeing violet or indigo.
They're just reporting the raw data lighting up on their internal dashboard.
What's fascinating here is how vital this unprompted visual feedback loop is to his methodology. It creates a shared objective reality between the healer and the healed.
So they're both looking at the same metrics.
Yes. The goal of a full unblocking session is for the client to organically visualize all 7 colors of the visible spectrum,
which correspond to the major energetic hubs.
Right. He monitors the process until the client confirms seeing every single color. If a specific color refuses to manifest in their mind's eye, that corresponds to a specific energy center that remains physically or energetically jammed.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because Osman doesn't just use the standard, universally accepted color map that you'll find printed on every yoga mat or New Age tapestry.
No, he doesn't.
His clinical color mapping directly and significantly contradicts many established theoretical texts.
It is a major point of departure, and it really speaks to his reliance on empirical data over dogma.
Let's give some baseline context for people.
Sure. So traditionally, most historical and modern texts map the 7 major chakras, starting from the base of the spine and moving upwards in the exact sequential order of the rainbow.
Right. Red at the root, orange at the sacral, yellow at the solar plexus, green at the heart, light blue at the throat, indigo at the third eye, and violet at the crown.
But Osman states, based on thousands of hours of clinical observation and his own deep meditative mapping prior to his blindness, that the traditional linear model is flawed.
He agrees with the upper alignment, right?
Yes, he confirms that the heart is green, the throat is light blue, and the third eye is indigo.
But he states the lower 3 centers work in reverse order from the center of the body downwards.
Exactly. He proposes a centrifugal model where the system expands outward from the central visceral region.
Okay, so moving downwards from the heart center.
He maps the solar plexus as red, the sacral as orange, and the root, which he locates firmly in the perineum floor, as yellow.
That completely flips the script on the foundational lower chakras. He fundamentally swapped the positions of red and yellow.
He did.
Now, why would that be? Why would the lower centers reverse their order?
Well, if we think about the lower chakras governing primal functions, survival, digestion, reproduction,
Right.
reversing their order inward toward the center of the body suggests an evolutionary hierarchy.
Oh, I see. If red represents the most dense foundational survival energy,
Placing it at the solar plexus aligns with the enteric nervous system.
the second brain in our gut.
Exactly, which is where our core physical instincts truly originate, expanding outward from there.
That biological alignment makes perfect sense. The gut-brain axis is the absolute core of physiological survival. But to publicly claim this in the wellness space, that is incredibly risky.
You are challenging traditions that have been codified and worshipped for centuries. People get extremely protective of their theoretical frameworks.
Osman himself actually acknowledges the gravity of that risk. He admits he suffered from profound anxiety and self-doubt about this discrepancy.
I mean, he had to ask himself, who am I to disagree with an established ancient science?
But this is where his background as a rigorous practitioner rather than just a theorist really shines.
Right. When faced with the discrepancy between the ancient textbooks and his own clinical dashboard, he didn't assume his data was wrong.
He tested his hypothesis on himself thousands of times.
He applied the scientific method observation, hypothesis, testing, repetition to a deeply subjective experience.
Thousands of times. And then he went digging into the historical archives.
Yeah.
He eventually found some obscure, older yogic texts that actually corroborated his experiential findings.
He discovered that the theoretical texts themselves don't even agree with each other uniformly.
Which highlights an incredibly important lesson for any field of study. There is always a tension between theoretical dogma, what the manual tells you should happen, and practical experiential reality, what is actually happening on the ground.
Right. And you listening might be wondering, why should you care about this highly specific debate over whether the root chakra is red or yellow?
Yeah, why does it matter?
you should care because it is a masterclass in trusting your own empirical evidence. It's like saying, I am looking for the read receipt from the client, and the read receipt is repeatedly yellow, not red. Therefore, the textbook needs an update.
It's a call to trust observable reality over inherited authority.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's about the courage to look objectively at the data in front of you.
How often in business, in modern medicine, or in our personal relationships, do we completely ignore the reality of a situation because a societal script or a manual tells us things should be operating differently?
Exactly. Osman prioritizes the verifiable result above all else.
So we have the telepathic transmission mechanism, we have the diagnostic dashboard of reversing colors, but what happens when the energy is transmitted? The dashboard is active, but the colors flat out refuse to show up.
What happens when there is a persistent glitch in the biological network?
Right.
This is where Osman's source material provides a truly compelling, real-world case study. It perfectly illustrates what happens at the exact intersection where spiritual energy collides with physical anatomy.
Yes.
Yeah.
The story of the 18-day standstill. This anecdote is absolutely wild.
Walk us through it.
So Osman shares a case study about a client, a man who actually ended up becoming one of his closest friends through this process. This client came in for a session, and initially, things proceeded normally. The client organically visualized violet, indigo, light blue, and green.
So the upper centers, governed by the master switch, were wide open and receiving the data.
Exactly. But he could not visualize red, orange, or yellow.
The entire lower half of the system was completely dark on the dashboard.
Completely dark. And they didn't just shrug it off after 20 minutes. Osman states they rigorously attempted to clear the blockage for 18 consecutive days.
18 days.
For over 2 weeks, no matter what quantum transmission techniques he utilized, the client could only see the top colors. The bottom 3 simply would not manifest.
What's truly fascinating here is how Osman responds to this systemic failure.
Yeah.
The standard fallback for a lesser spiritual practitioner is often victim blaming.
Oh, absolutely.
If a healing doesn't work, they might claim the client isn't open enough, or that their vibrations are too low, or that they have deep-seated psychological resistance.
You just didn't believe hard enough.
Precisely. But Osman doesn't do that. When the quantum protocol failed to produce the verifiable symptom, he didn't blame the client's spirit.
He pivoted entirely.
He started searching for a purely mechanical, physical cause.
He acted like a diagnostic mechanic. He paused the session and asked the client a very specific structural question.
What did he ask?
He asked, "Did you ever meet with any accident or trauma in your back?"
Wow.
He hypothesized that there was a literal physical roadblock preventing the energy from descending.
And his hypothesis was correct.
It was. The client confirmed that he had indeed suffered an accident that significantly injured his mid-back area years prior.
This is the mind-body connection, not as a metaphor, but as literal plumbing.
It makes me think of a kinked garden hose.
Okay, expand on that.
If the spigot attached to the house is the third eye, the master switch, you can turn that spigot on to full capacity. The water pressure, the bioenergy is incredibly strong. The water flows perfectly down the first few feet of the hose. The upper garden, the heart, the throat is getting watered beautifully. It's blooming green and blue.
But the water isn't reaching the end of the hose.
The lower garden is completely barren.
The root, sacral, and solar plexus regions are starved of flow.
Right. And you can stand at the spigot all day, meditating and turning the pressure up as high as possible. You can send all the spiritual WhatsApp messages in the universe.
But until you physically walk down the length of that rubber hose,
find the spot where it's folded over itself in the dirt and unkink it. The water will never flow. The physical anatomy dictates the energetic capacity.
That is precisely the mechanism at play here. When Osman physically palpated the client's mid-back, he discovered severely inflamed nodes right at the site of the historical injury.
So the physical fascia and tissue were literally holding the somatic trauma,
creating a dense energetic dam that blocked the downward transmission of the nerve impulses.
So what does the master-level telepathic healer do? He stops sending telepathic energy. He gets his hands dirty. He spent about 30 minutes performing a deep, localized energy massage directly on that injured mid-back tissue to manually break up and clear the inflamed nodes.
He physically unkinked the hose.
And the verification of that physical intervention was instantaneous.
Instantaneous.
In that exact same session, the moment the physical tissue was resolved, Osman reinitiated the energetic transmission. Immediately, The red, orange, and yellow colors flashed in succession across the client's mind's eye.
After 18 agonizing days of total failure,
Instantly.
it fundamentally proved that the client's spiritual energy or lower chakras weren't intrinsically broken or flawed.
The hardware was fine. The wiring was just pinched by an old injury.
This raises a profound question about how our society views holistic health. We have completely artificially separated physical therapy from psychological and energetic therapy.
We really have. We send the sore back to a chiropractor and the blocked emotions to a talk therapist.
But Osman's protocol proves they are a single, deeply interwoven system. You require the biological energy to flow freely up and down the neural pathways because every single center dictates a specific physical and psychological reality.
He explicitly emphasizes that. He states that when all 114 centers are unblocked and communicating, the individual gains the capacity for harmonious control over all aspects of their life.
Health, peace, relationships.
Even financial clarity, because their biological processor is running at maximum efficiency.
And as a direct result of clearing that physical node, his friend experienced a massive, verifiable improvement in the systemic condition he had been battling.
Yeah, and there's another highly practical detail Osman shares regarding this physical intersection, specifically concerning the methodology of treating the root chakra.
Oh, the root workaround.
Yes, this is a brilliant pragmatic detail.
Let's get into it.
So as we established earlier, Osman maps the yellow root chakra geographically to the perineum, the pelvic floor. Now, obviously, in a professional clinical setting, physically placing a hand on that area is incredibly invasive.
It can make clients deeply uncomfortable, which triggers a stress response that would block the healing anyway.
It is a massive issue of professional boundaries, safety, and autonomic nervous system regulation.
If the client feels unsafe, their sympathetic nervous system flares up, the tissues contract, and the energy won't flow regardless of what the practitioner does.
But the root center still requires activation if the lower circuit is jammed.
So Osman utilizes his deep understanding of the anatomical wiring to bypass the area entirely.
Instead of approaching the perineum directly, he touches the lower part of the back, right at the base of the spine near the tailbone.
Which is structurally significant. Let's explain why that works.
For listeners who might be familiar with the term but not the biology, this is where the Kundalini energy resides.
Now, when we say Kundalini, we aren't talking about a literal magical snake.
No.
We are talking about the massive latent bioelectric potential stored at the sacral and coccygeal nerve plexus at the very base of the spine.
Osman explains that touching this specific non-invasive area heats up the nerve cluster. It sends an indirect thermal and bioelectric signal that stimulates the root chakra from the back door,
awakening that latent energy to rise up the central column.
It is a masterful example of anatomical adaptation.
It really demonstrates that the bioenergetic map is sophisticated and interconnected enough that a blunt, direct approach isn't always necessary to resolve a block.
You can leverage the secondary neural pathways.
It maintains the client's psychological safety, it is highly efficient, and it achieves the ultimate metric of success, the verifiable result.
The client safely reports the organic visualization of the yellow light.
It is pure, unsentimental pragmatism applied to spirituality.
Which really brings us to the most pressing question for you listening right now. If the ultimate goal of human optimization is this harmonious control over all aspects of our nervous system and life, and these energy centers govern that control, does that mean we all need a practitioner like Osman on retainer?
Do we need to constantly pay a master healer to unjam our 114 centers every time we get stressed?
Because that is the assumption baked into modern wellness culture.
Oh, absolutely. So many therapeutic and wellness models are built entirely on the economics of dependency.
The implicit message is often, your body is inherently broken. Only my specific proprietary technique can fix you. Please subscribe and come back every Tuesday.
But Osman completely rejects that model. His answer to that question is a resounding, refreshing no.
He is remarkably transparent about the timelines involved in his clinical practice. He states on the record that for an overwhelming 90 to 95% of his clients, they experience a complete systemic chakra unblocking in a single session.
One session for over 90% of people.
In an industry built on endless subscription packages, that level of efficiency is staggering.
And he points out that this success rate isn't supernatural. He considers it normal when you properly access the body's natural energy.
But it gets even more fascinating. He notes that for a rare subset of clients who are highly attuned, the entire unblocking process might only take 10 to 15 minutes.
And we have to ask why it is so incredibly fast for that specific demographic.
Right.
This is where he introduces the critical concept of preventative self-maintenance.
Okay, unpack that.
Those individuals who clean in 15 minutes aren't genetically superior. They are simply the ones who are already actively engaging in daily practices like mindfulness, yoga postures, and pranayama.
He points out that those ancient practices are essentially DIY energetic hygiene.
Exactly. Osman's philosophy is that if you are consistently engaging in breath work and movement, you're acting as your own technician.
You are continually unkinking the microfolds in your own garden hose before they can calcify into major inflamed nodes.
I find that deeply empowering. Osman has no interest in creating a captive audience.
In fact, he explicitly states that a balanced, harmonious person who engages in basic self-maintenance shouldn't be suffering from the severe conditions that require his level of critical care unblocking in the first place.
He jokes that the only reason a truly balanced person might book a session with him is out of sheer intellectual curiosity to experience the visual dashboard.
He rightly points out that when the biological energy flows efficiently, the immune system is naturally boosted.
By up to 90%, he notes.
Yeah. And the individual generally maintains robust health, stable relationships, and career clarity because the internal hardware is optimized to handle external stress.
But let's look at reality. You and I and everyone listening, we don't live perfectly balanced monk-like lives on a secluded mountaintop.
No, we live in hyper-stimulating, aggressively demanding modern environments.
Right. So if we all possess these built-in DIY tools, why do these massive systemic blockages happen at all? Why does our energy get so depleted that we develop severe ailments?
Osman points directly to the friction of modern life. He cites genetic predispositions, yes, but heavily emphasizes acquired conditions resulting from poor nutritional diets, chronic high stress levels that fry the nervous system, and toxic external environmental factors.
These modern realities severely and constantly deplete our natural baseline energy reserves.
The modern lifestyle essentially forces the body to constantly run on a low battery, which degrades the hardware over time.
And this brings us beautifully full circle right back to the medical disclaimer we examined at the beginning of the deep dive.
Yes, let's tie that thread because it grounds everything we talked about.
Osman is unequivocally clear regarding his specialization in critical care. Chakra unblocking and quantum energy transmission are not a magic bullet that defies biology.
It will not rewrite a genetic disorder.
It will not instantly vaporize a late-stage acquired disease that requires aggressive modern medical science.
He never promises a miracle that bypasses physical reality. Instead, he describes his energy healing as a protocol that dramatically increases the potentiality for medical improvement.
Exactly. Think of a severe illness as a war your body is fighting. If your energetic pathways, your nervous system, your lymphatic flow, your psychological resilience are blocked, your body is fighting that brutal war with one hand tied behind its back.
The internal friction is exhausting your resources.
Right. By utilizing his 50 years of practice to unblock those 114 centers, Osman is systematically removing that internal friction.
He states that this optimized biological state helps allopathic medical science, whether it's chemotherapy or physical rehab, work significantly better, faster, and with fewer complications.
It is such a profound, integrated approach. They are playing on the exact same team.
The allopathic doctor provides the necessary chemical or surgical intervention, and the bioenergy healer ensures the body's subtle electrical infrastructure is optimized to receive, process, and recover from that intervention.
And he is so dedicated to this integrated approach that he provides extensive resources for free.
Yeah, you can find his unique advice, techniques, and the free 5-minute yoga and meditation program he frequently references right on his website, yogawellness786.com.
Or through his free YouTube channel. He only reserves his highly intensive premium one-on-one energy interventions for his paid platforms, ensuring the foundational knowledge remains accessible to everyone.
It speaks to a mission of genuine societal benefit. He isn't looking at the human being as a mechanistic meat suit that just needs a pill.
Nor is he looking at us as floating, ethereal spirits that just need a prayer.
He views the human organism as an intricately connected, deeply entangled biological and energetic machine.
Okay, let's pull all of these complex threads together.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? We started with the concept of a standard medical diagnosis, searching for that comforting, objective white line on an X-ray.
What Osman, the blind Muslim yogi, has demonstrated is that the unseen, energetic world does not have to be relegated to blind faith and murky mysticism.
Through his rigorous scientific approach, We see that energy healing can and should have observable, verifiable symptoms, like the distinct organic flashing of the color spectrum on a client's internal dashboard.
We learned that established theoretical texts, no matter how revered or ancient, must always be tested against the crucible of practical, clinical reality.
Even if it requires controversially reversing the color mapping of the lower nervous system.
And perhaps most importantly, we learn that sometimes a profound spiritual or emotional blockage isn't a failure of your soul.
It is rooted in a highly specific, entirely physical trauma, like an inflamed node hiding in the fascia of your mid-back.
If we connect this all to the bigger picture of your own life, the most profound takeaway is absolute self-empowerment.
You inherently possess the tools required for your own energetic hygiene.
Committing to your baseline physical and mental health through structured breath work, mindful movement, and physiological regulation isn't just a fitness trend.
It is the ultimate form of preventative bioenergy medicine. You have the innate ability to keep your own neural and energetic pathways clear of debris.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought to chew on.
Osman's case study revealed how a forgotten, decades-old physical back injury literally dammed up his client's energetic flow for 18 agonizing days, entirely shutting down the foundational centers of his life.
So I want you to turn that diagnostic dashboard inward right now.
What old, ignored injuries,